Holy smokes, that's bright. This is something new. I'm not really like the just talk to the camera kind of guy. I tend to like to do videos that are a little bit more composed, but I figure since we're just kind of getting into the start of the season here in Canada, I wanted to cover goals and what my goals for the season are and kind of what I hope to accomplish by the time that this year wraps up. If you're not a goal setter already, or if it's not something that you do consciously, then you've probably already clicked away, or you're you're thinking like it's a waste of time, it's too much effort, or like the outcome is inevitable because I'm just going to fail anyway. Just to attack that first thought, like goal setting is too much work. It's not too much work, and here's why it's not too much work. It's because you goal set 1,000 times a day. Every time I'm riding and say my front wheel washes out, or I'm like dragging my brake around a corner, or I just like decide that I'm not gonna hit that jump or that feature, that happens because of a mistake, or it happens because I recognize that I don't have the skill to tackle that feature. In that situation, braking clearly is a goal of mine. I want to make sure that I can make it around that corner without dragging my rear brake. I wash out that front wheel. Okay, well, I need to improve my body position. Even if you don't necessarily have all the answers, the goal has already been set. It's just a matter of whether or not you answer that call, right? Like to me, goal setting, or at least a good part of goal setting, is really just problem solving in your own life, right? Like what things do I need to fix? So this year, what are my goals? What problems am I gonna solve this season? Well, last season I was doing a bunch of bunny hop practice at the end of the year, and I really managed to get it dialed in. But one of the things that I never really got comfortable doing was applying it in real world situations. I still didn't have the confidence to know how high I was gonna be able to get. Am I gonna be able to clear this obstacle, or am I gonna just smash my rear wheel to pieces? You know, like just kind of changing elevation and changing grades and getting comfortable in a bunch of different situations is a huge goal for me this year. Number two for me is my wheelies and my manuals. I have never had rear wheel balance. I mean, I can certainly lift the front wheel up, obviously, but I've never found that balance point. I remember my buddy, we were riding to school in like elementary school or junior high or something, and he tried to teach me how to do it, and I just couldn't put the pieces together. It was just a commitment issue, right? It's scary. So I tried it a couple times and then never again. So now I want to come back to it and kind of put a bit more time into it, because number three is that I really want to develop my rear hop skills. Like I'm a huge fan of trials. You know, I follow a lot of these guys on YouTube, and it's super inspiring to see what they can do, and it gets me motivated to get on my bike, and it just feels so much like play, right? It's like I can just do this in my backyard anytime. If I've got 15 spare minutes, I can go and work on some of these techniques, and I love that idea that it's just really accessible. So rear wheel hops are a big one for me this year. Okay, number four. I sold my fat bike at the end of the season this year, but I did manage to get out and ride it a couple of times. And on one of those rides, I got absolutely destroyed by a series of switchbacks. I like flipped over the bike downhill and just got beat to shit and was not happy about it. And I demand satisfaction. So switchbacks are definitely on my list. So number five is just cornering in general. I really need to just continue to work on that. And I mean, I'll be working on that till I'm too old to ride a bike, right? Like the need to improve your cornering never goes away. My goal is to be able to really push, like just rail corners, right? That's really what I want to be able to do. But first, just getting comfortable with the weight shifts and finding, like dropping my weight so that it's in the right spot at the apex of the turn, so that I've got all the pressure into the ground where I need it, and just creating my own traction, right? So there's a bunch of things like that all sort of relates to body position and those sorts of mechanics. So that's going to be a big focus for me this year as well. So those are my 5 goals that I had in mind, and I had actually made these goals before I even sat down to make them, if you get my meaning, right? Like these were subconscious things that I noticed just as I was riding, that when you reflect on them, you just like, oh yeah, shit, that is a goal actually. Every single one of these was brought about by a failure of some kind, right? Like you don't necessarily set goals by having successes. But this is the point at where like most people would probably fail, right? Like they'll do something like set a hard time limit. Like, oh, I gotta lose 50 pounds in a month. It's not gonna happen. You're not gonna lose 50 pounds in a month. And if you did, it would be dangerous. You shouldn't lose that much weight in a month. But when you inevitably fail because you've set yourself kind of an impossible timeline, or even just, a timeline in general, then it's justification for just abandoning the goal to begin with. Well, if it's something that's actually important to you, progress is more important than deadline. So do I think that I'm going to actually be able to get through all of these skills in one season? Not really. No, I have pretty reasonable expectations, I think. Like, yeah, I would love to be able to improve at all of these, and I think that I will. Like, if I'm putting any kind of time into these at all, I'll be in a better place than I was than when I started, right? As long as there's progress, that's all I really care about. I'm not going to sabotage myself because I am committed to a time frame. That's just, it's not fair. We get so used to that in school, right? Like, write this paper, have it done by this date, or like in our jobs, you got to have this done by this time. And it's fair, like we have to be able to work within timelines, but they're not necessarily the healthiest way to see improvement and to actually grow, right? It's why I love individual sport. It's because it's totally up to you to dictate the pace of progress and the things that are important to you in your own development. So I guess there's a question of why also these goals this year. Why this year? Why these goals? We have kind of an interesting opportunity this year. So a couple of friends of mine just bought a house in Squamish, and I've never ridden BC, but when regulations relax and we can go and stay with them, we'll be in Squamish for a little bit this summer, and that means that I'm going to get a chance to be exposed to some of that riding for the very first time. I feel like I'm going to get just absolutely rolled by every single trail out there. Like the greens are just going to be blacks for me. So, so I mean, there's a little bit of anxious anticipation there, but I want to make sure that when we finally get there, hopefully I'll have these skills or a couple of these skills kind of locked in a little bit more so that I've got more confidence when I do get there and I can push myself a little bit harder and kind of get a chance to enjoy these trails the way that they were intended, not the way that I have to enjoy them just to get through them. Last year, I kind of based all my goals around this idea of wanting to race. And that was something that I knew coming into the season. So I was training in the winter and all that. And this year, I want to be able to shift my focus to a goal. I still want to prep for something. And if it's not developing my cardio, it's going to be developing, like stamina and endurance in my legs for just like standing and controlling the bike on descents and kind of working on some of those downhill skills a little bit more. So that's kind of how I want to apply all of these and why these skills in particular were what I selected for this season. I really want to thank everybody who's checking out these videos. Like I'm really just doing this for fun. I know I don't update super frequently, but it means a lot. The reason that I'm making these videos is because it holds me accountable, right? It gives me an excuse to get back on the bike and forces me to go out and try something new, to get a little bit better and to just have more fun with the sport. And if it wasn't for an audience, I don't know that I would be as motivated to do it. I kind of have the attention span of a goldfish. So I get really easily distracted. I move on to other things and it's really easy for me to put things down. And this has just it's been really good for my health to stay motivated to keep working out. And it's given me a lot of focus in my spare time. So it really means a lot to me that you guys are coming to check out these videos. So thank you very much. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know what you're working on this year. Do you have some target events? You got some big plans? Let me know what's going on. I'm always stoked to see what everybody else is up to. And if you're in Alberta, if you're in Edmonton, like hit me up. I'm on Instagram. Let's go for a ride sometime. It'd be great to get out there and meet a couple more people in the city. So until the next one, we'll see you later. Anyway, I'm aiming to make a whole bunch of mistakes this year. I don't expect this year to go particularly smoothly, and I'm really excited to do it. But until I have a couple of those mistakes on camera to share with you, we'll see you next time.